In Microsoft Outlook 2016, you have three different options for formatting emails. Here I am in a new email window. I'm going to go to the Format Text tab. My three formatting options are HTML, plain text, and rich text. Plain text is great when you just want to send basic characters. It ensures that no matter what email service someone is using, they'll be able to read your message. HTML lets you use HTML formatting. You can make text stand out with italics, change the font. You can even include pictures that will display in line with your text. Most people with email can receive HTML formatted messages, although some email systems do prefer plain text, but that's less and less. The final option is rich text. Rich text is Outlook's proprietary message format. You can use simple text formatting with it, and you must use rich text format to send meeting requests or tasks. It's best if you use it only for occasions when you know the recipient also uses Outlook, because no other email client will properly display messages in Outlook's rich text format. My personal opinion is that HTML is usually your best bet. Now, you can change the default email format that your email sends in simply by going into the options. To do that, you'll go into the File menu of your Microsoft Outlook and into the options. From the Mail portion of Outlook, you have the ability to choose the default format of your messages right at the top. Here I can select HTML, rich text, or plain text, and then once I've made my selection, say OK at the bottom. Now, depending on your environment, who you're emailing, these options will need to be adjusted, but you do have the choice to set the default and switch between, even though that default has been set to one or the other. Go ahead and look at this on your own. Play around with the different formats and see how they affect your options in the ribbon. Whether you have HTML or plain text set, you'll have a different set of options available to you. In Outlook 2016, you can create custom email signatures. Email signatures will give you the opportunity to share text and images and hyperlinks with anyone receiving your email automatically. From a new email window, you can add a signature that has already been saved within Outlook from the Message tab of the ribbon. If you've never created or used a signature before, to do that, simply click on the Signature button from the new message window and choose Signatures. This will open up the Signatures and Stationery dialog box. And from that dialog box, you can select New to create a new signature. I'm going to call my signature my first and last name, and I'm going to say OK. Once I've named my signature, I can then edit that signature by typing in my message. I can type something like thank you and my first and last name. I can put in my email address, or if you have a standard company signature, you can simply copy and paste that into this section. Once I've put in all the appropriate information for my signature, whether it's an image, a hyperlink, or a business card, a contact card that I've saved within Outlook already, I can use the Save button up at the top. This saves my signature, and by default, any new signature or the first signature that you create will become the default for new messages. You can remove that simply by using the drop-down and changing it back to none. I like having my signature as the default so it comes on automatically. I can also set it as the default for replies and forwards, or I can create a secondary signature, maybe a simple signature that just says thank you and my first name. Once I've created my simple signature, I can go set that for the replies and forwards, and now I have a signature for both new messages and replies and forwards automatically set. If I want to add additional signatures with other information, maybe more detailed information like my cell phone or my LinkedIn login, I can do that as well. And once in my new message window, I simply switch through the different signatures by selecting one or the other. Go ahead and try this on your own. Open up a new message window and create email signatures. You can also do this from the Options tab of the ribbon by going to the File tab, Options, and under Mail, there is the Signatures button. This will open up that same dialog box. Choose whatever method works best for you. If you're going to be out of the office, either on vacation or working remotely with limited access to email, it is valuable to use the out-of-office assistant. That way you can set automatic replies to emails that you receive, letting people know that you won't be available. From the File tab of the ribbon, we have the Backstage view, and this is where we can access our automatic replies or out-of-office assistant. I'm going to select automatic replies, and it's going to open up a dialog box. We have the option right now set to do not send automatic replies, meaning my out-of-office assistant is turned off. If I knew that I was going to be going on vacation for the next week, I would want to send automatic replies during a specific range. I'm going to go ahead and set my out-of-office assistant to send automatic replies between 8 a.m. Monday and 5 p.m. Friday of next week. That way, during business hours, anyone emailing me will know that I am not available and to expect a delay in my response. I have two different options for sending automatic replies. I have the option to send automatic replies to people inside of my organization, so people with the same @whatever email address. I also have the option to set automatic replies for people outside of my organization, so anyone not part of my global address book. The nice thing about this is I can customize my messages. So people that I work with, I can say, hey, I'm going on vacation, I won't be available, see you when I get back. And people outside of the organization, I can give specifics like who to contact if they have an emergency or where to get information. This feature is really helpful, and what's great about it is it gives you a very obvious bar across the top when you have automatic replies on, so that you remember to turn them off. Also, if you set it during a specific time range, it will turn off automatically. I'm going to go ahead and put in a quick little message. So I put in my message, and I'm going to leave just this one as the only message for right now. I'm not going to send an automatic reply to people outside of my organization. And I can see when I set this to off, it changes on the tab. Once I say OK and I move back to my email, I don't have that obvious automatic replies is turned on. And that's because it hasn't been turned on. But if I go back and change the date range to include today's date, and I'll go ahead and put that as far as 11 a.m. today, I now get this big yellow bar right across the top of my email saying that automatic replies is turned on. And to turn it off, I can simply select that turn off button. Try this on your own. Set an automatic reply message through the File tab of your 2016 Microsoft Outlook, simply by selecting automatic replies. Microsoft Outlook has a useful feature called voting buttons that allow you to save voting options within an email. I'm going to go ahead and create a new email right now and show you how to create voting buttons. I'm going to send this email to my colleague, and I could send it to one person or many people. And I'm going to call this Make Sure to Vote. I'm going to do something simple like, do you have lunch plans on Friday the 16th? I'm sorry, not the 16th. February 26th. Once I've put in my question, I can go to the Options tab of the ribbon. And from the Options tab of the ribbon, I have my Use Voting buttons. There's 3 different options to choose from for preset buttons. And I'm going to choose the bottom one, yes, no, or maybe. This will give anyone voting the opportunity to choose from one of those 3 options. I'm going to click Send, and then my coworker will get that email. My coworker also sent me voting messages, a voting button, so I can show you what that looks like. Here I have an email that says, "Do you like Outlook?" If I click on this little information right here, I can vote of a yes or a no. I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I do like Outlook, and then I have the option to send the response now or edit before sending. I'm going to choose send the response now, and my coworker will get my response telling me what my vote was. And I now have a message that I voted yes on February 19th. As soon as my coworker votes, I get an email response showing me what their vote was, and I can see that my voter responded maybe to my question, do you have lunch plans on Friday, February 26th? So now, because I was the creator of that email, I get that response of a maybe. If I open up the original message from my sent items, option appears to track my votes. This is really helpful if you're sending this vote option to a number of people, as it'll give you an overall result of your vote and who voted for what. Try this on your own. Open up a new message and send an email out with voting buttons. Sometimes it is helpful to include a little bit of instructions so that people know what it is you're looking for. In Outlook 2016, quick steps are a great way to automate several steps into one button. From the Home tab of the ribbon, we have our quick steps, and these are basically templates that you can customize. The first time you select one of these preset quick steps, you'll need to put in additional information. I'm going to start with team email, and I'm going to leave the default name. I want this quick step to create an email to my coworkers for our weekly meeting that we have. Every week I send out the agenda for our weekly meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and save those steps into a quick step. I can put in the names of my coworkers simply by pulling them up, or I can search for them through my global address book. Once I've gotten all of the names of the people that I want to include in my quick step, I can save those names and add additional options. Once I went to the add options, it deleted those people that I added in there, so keep that in mind. For some reason, you'll need to say additional options before you put in the names. I'm going to retype in all of the names that I added in earlier. And I can also select show options. Here I'm going to put in a subject line, and the reason why is every week I send out an email with this same subject line. I have the choice to flag this email, to set an importance, and to put in actual body text. I'm going to go ahead and type in agenda outline. Because the agenda is going to change week from week, I'm going to leave the rest of it blank, but I will put in my name as a signature at the bottom. I'm going to add one more action, such as categorizing this using one of the categories that we discussed creating earlier in these videos. You can choose a shortcut if necessary, and put in a little tooltip reminding people or yourself what this quick step does. Once I've put in all of the different steps, I'm going to save this. And now when I select Team Email, it creates that email to those specific people, puts in that subject line, and all I have to do is go in and add my agenda outline. Try this on your own. Create a quick step using the steps that I just outlined for Team Email. Once you've done that, you can create additional quick steps using some of these preset templates or going to the Create New, where you can create your own custom quick step using any of the options in Outlook, such as creating new meetings, moving or forwarding items to a specific folder, creating tasks, or flagging things. Anytime you find yourself recording or doing the same steps over and over, a quick step is probably a great solution. In Microsoft Outlook 2016, we have the ability to create rules, automations within the Outlook program. Unlike quick steps where you still will have to select the button to make them happen, rules can happen automatically whenever certain criteria is met. Right now, I'm selected on my header for today's emails. So when I go to the Rules button on the Home tab of the ribbon, my Create Rule is grayed out. If I happen to select on an email and I go back to my Rules button, it'll give me a preset template saying something like always move messages from whoever's email I happen to be selected on. Either way, you can get to the custom rule portion simply by going into your Manage Rules and Alerts. Here I can see that I don't currently have any rules available, but I can choose New Rule, and I'm given all of the different email templates for rules within Outlook. Now, the rules comes with a wizard, and there's always multiple steps. A few things I always recommend when creating rules is to think about all of the different criterias and scenarios that might come up. For example, if you have a coworker that's always sending you emails that you don't really need to read, you could set up a rule that automatically moves those emails to a folder and marks them as read. However, you want to be careful because there could be that scenario that coworker is actually sending you an email that you need to read and respond to. So rules like that can be dangerous. Be sure when creating rules to think about all of those different possible scenarios and to make sure that your rules are helping you, not hurting you. Once you decide on a rule to create, be sure to read all of the different options and exceptions. I'm going to go ahead and create a rule that moves messages from someone to a specific folder. I'm going to select on this top option, and then I can choose Next. Now, when I choose Next, however, I still hadn't finished the step 2. So that's what I mean by making sure you read everything before you move on to the next step. I selected the rule template, but now I need to edit the rule description and tell Outlook who that person is and what that folder is. So from this step 2, I'm going to use the hyperlink, and I'm going to select my coworker 03-07. I'm then going to specify a folder that I've created, and I'm going to call this Project X. Once I've selected the folder that I had and the person that I wanted to move those messages from to that folder, then I'm ready to choose Next at the bottom. Now, there's additional things that I can be aware of, like which condition or conditions do I want to check for? Is this just emails with specific words like Project X? Is this with specific sensitivity? You can get really custom with your rules, and I think it's very important to read through all of the different options. And again, make sure that you're not just creating a rule that hides important information from you. I'm going to go ahead and put in leaving this general so that any message from 03-07 will be moved into the Project X folder. I'm going to go ahead and select Next. And this is an important part. This is, again, what I want to do with the message. So maybe I want to do more than just move it to a folder. Maybe I want to assign it to a category as well. I'm going to go ahead and put a check mark next to assign to a category, and I'm going to then go to the step 2 and choose which category I want to assign it to. Here I have the Project X category. So now any email that I get from this particular person, 03-07, is going to move to the Project X folder while adding the Project X category. I'm going to go ahead and select Next, and here I can be aware of any exceptions. Maybe if this message is marked as important and that importance is high, I don't want it to move into that folder. If it's marked as a high importance email, I want it to go directly to my inbox and not be sent directly to that Project X folder. Once I've completed all of the different steps, I can go next. And here I have the option to run this message now on messages already in my inbox. I will say that this can be a very useful way to clean up messages in your inbox related to specific projects without having to keep the rule on all the time. You can run the message on messages already in the inbox and then go back and turn it off. That's what I'm going to do right here. Once I put a check mark to run this message now, I'm going to go ahead and select Finish. This rule will only run when I'm connected to Outlook and I'm actually online, connected to my computer and server. I'm going to say OK again, and all of a sudden, emails from 03-07 that haven't been marked as important have been moved into the Project X folder. And here I can see those 2 messages that were just in my inbox have now been moved over. Try this on your own. Go into the rules and create a rule that automatically moves items from your inbox to a specific folder. Now, once I've done that, go back to the Rules button. Go to your Manage Rules and Alerts, and you can even turn this rule off without deleting it. That way, it's not running, but if you need it to clean up your inbox again, you can use it. Now, rules can be used in many different ways, so I encourage you to think about how rules might be able to help you, but also to be careful that you don't have rules keeping you from seeing and viewing important information. When working in Microsoft Outlook, you have the ability to assign permissions to specific folders in your inbox or in your Outlook mail. I can assign my colleagues to have permissions to view or edit specific emails within a specific folder. To access a folder's permission, one way to do that is to right-click over the top of that folder and select the properties. This moves me into all of the different properties within this particular folder. And here at the top, I can see it's called Project X Properties. From the properties, one of the tabs I have is Permissions. And right now I can see that I am the owner of this particular folder. I can have full details, I can have the full writing permissions, deleting permissions, and additional folder owner permissions. I can add a colleague to have permissions on this folder as well, simply by selecting that Add button. Once I've selected Add, it adds an option to assign this particular person permissions on my folder. I can use some of the preset permission levels, such as owner or editor or author. And each one of these options available through the drop-down will give you a different combination of the buttons for read, write, delete, and other settings. You can create your own custom settings, but usually what you're looking for is listed in this drop-down. So I want 03-07 to be able to review specific content. They can see the folder. They can read the full details, but they don't have the ability to delete items or create items or subfolders. Once I've said OK, this now has given that person permissions to my particular folder, and they can access those folder permissions themselves. Once you have shared the folder, you still need to make that folder available. The person that receives that folder permissions is not going to be notified via email. They're going to need to go to the File tab of the ribbon and into the Account Settings. From the File tab of the ribbon, select Account Settings and then Account Settings again. Here, you'll double-click on the email address name, and that will open up the server settings. We'll select the More Settings options, go into Advanced, and search for the person that shared that folder with us. Once we locate them, we've added them to our Exchange, and we will get an extra little section of all of the folders that they have shared with us. I'm going to say OK, finalize my last step and say Finish. and close out of the account settings window. Now, on the left-hand side of my screen, I have a new item that appears, and any shared folders that 03-07 shares with me will be listed. So again, there's 2 steps to this process. There's going into the individual folders, and from that, setting the permissions through the properties on what they're able to do. And then there's the second step of actually adding that account through the account settings, double-clicking on the account and going into the More Settings options, Advanced, to then adding that mailbox to your navigation pane. Try this on your own and rewatch the video if you have any confusion on what steps come next. To set delegate status within Outlook 2016, you're going to navigate to the File tab of the ribbon. From the File tab of the ribbon, select Account Settings, and here we have the option for Delegate Access, giving others permission to receive items and respond on your behalf. This is great if you have an assistant or colleague that's going to be helping you while you're out of the office for a certain amount of time or just to help you through your day-to-day. I'm going to select Delegate Access, and I'm going to add my coworker. Once I do type in that name, I can go through and set permissions on all the different pillars of Outlook: calendar, tasks, inbox, contacts, and notes. I can have custom settings for each of these, like they can review items on my calendar, they can author and create tasks, and they can't see anything in my inbox. So there's lots of different ways to set this up. I can also automatically send a message to the delegate summarizing these permissions. Delegate can also see my private items if I let them. Once I set all of my settings, I say OK, OK again, and now my delegate will receive an email outlining what permissions they have within my account. Try this on your own. Remember, though, if you do share your Outlook with someone and you don't want them to have permanent status, you can go back and change those simply by going back to that same option, clicking on their name, and choosing Remove. Try it on your own. When you want to move your Outlook email messages, contacts, and calendar from one computer with Outlook to another, or make a backup of your Outlook contents using the Outlook Import-Export wizard to export it to a PST file, is the easiest way to complete the task. First, we want to make sure that we're using the desktop version of Outlook, that we're not using the web app or online version of Outlook. From the desktop, we're going to go to the File tab of the ribbon. From the File tab of the ribbon, we have the Open Export option. Here we can choose Import Export. This opens up the Import and Export wizard, where I can select the option to export to a file. I'm then going to use the next option at the bottom, and I'm going to select an Outlook data file or PST file. Once I've selected what type of file format, I can choose whether I want to export my whole inbox or a subfolder of my inbox. If I leave this checkmark selected, it will include all of the subfolders under my inbox. I'm going to remove the checkmark as I don't want to import or export those particular subfolders. I can also choose a filter and filter out specific sections of my inbox or subfolders, like messages from specific people or with specific subject lines. I'm going to go ahead and choose Next. And here I can choose where I'm going to put this file. And I'm going to go ahead and select and put it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it Outlook 2016 Inbox as of 2/2016. Once I've typed in the name, I say OK, and I can choose Finish. I also have some options to replace duplicates or to not allow duplicates to be created. I'm going to go ahead and say Finish. Now, it also gives me the option to create a password. Unfortunately, though, if you forget or lose this password, Outlook will not be able to send it to you. So make sure you make note of that somewhere secure. For this, I'm not going to create a password. I'm going to say OK. Now, when I go to the computer desktop, I see that I have that file. It is an Outlook icon, which is that PST file extension. And if I open it up, Outlook data files must be opened within Outlook. So I can go and open up that Outlook data file by opening up the import or export through the Open Outlook data file. And now I navigate to the location of that folder, and here I can open up all of that information that I have now exported to my desktop. I see this option right at the top, and it makes it, right at the bottom, and it makes it really easy to go in and access information that you wanted to remove from your standard Outlook inbox. Try this on your own. Export a small subfolder, maybe information from a particular project, and save it somewhere in your desktop or in a server as a PST file. To archive your Outlook information, you're going to do that through the File tab of the ribbon. From the File tab of the ribbon, I have my Rules and Alerts section down at the bottom. Right above that, my Cleanup Tools. Here, I can move old items to an archive folder in the folder list. What this does is it pulls these emails off the server and puts them a local copy onto your computer or wherever location you decided to save them. I'm going to open up my archive options, and here I see that I have the option to archive all folders according to their settings, or to archive the folder and the subfolders. I'm going to choose this second radio button, and I want to archive items older than January 1st, 2016. Once I've archived old items older, I still will be able to access those. Again, it's just pulling this data from the server. Some organizations have strict policies on when you need to archive. Check with your IT department for what yours are, or if this is something that you're just doing on your own, think about when you probably need to access emails from, and then archive a little bit past that. So anything older than, say, a year or 2 years. You do have the option to set Do Not Archive with specific emails, and if you have set that, you can choose to include them even though they have the Do Not Auto Archive checked. Once you've determined what you're going to archive, you can then browse for a folder or put it on a location on your desktop. Make sure to name the file, and I'm going to say pre-January 1st, 2016. Once I say OK, I need to say OK again, and any emails older than January 1st, 2016 are going to be archived to a folder on my desktop. Here from the desktop computer, I can see that I have that archive pre-1/1/2016 Outlook PST file. And if I go back into my inbox, I now have a new section called Archives, and all of those emails that I've archived are still available to me. Again, they just live locally on my computer now and not on the Exchange server. Now, if you are going to be archiving to your local machine, that is a little bit risky because our machines could get viruses. They don't have the security that, say, our servers do. So moving it from the email server to your internal server might be your best bet. Try this on your own. Go ahead and archive older information that you no longer need access to. You'll be amazed at how fast things like searching work when there's not many years of emails to search through. Cleanup tools in Outlook 2016 sometimes eliminate the need for archiving if you're receiving messages from your IT department saying that you're in need or running out of room on your server. The cleanup tools get rid of any redundant information. So information that has been repeated over and over throughout an email chain. To clean up a folder, you're simply going to select on that folder. Here I am on my inbox, and I'm going to go to the Home tab of the ribbon. From the Home tab of the ribbon, I'm going to select Cleanup, and here I can clean up a conversation, a folder, or folder and subfolders. Again, it's going to remove redundant messages from every conversation, but it's not going to delete anything unique. So you have no risk of losing anything important because only repetitive, redundant information will be deleted and removed. I'm going to choose Cleanup Folder and Subfolders. It gives me the confirmation that I want to do this, and I'm going to choose Cleanup Folder. Again, nothing is deleted or removed. All I have is now much smaller amount of space taking up the server because all redundant information has been cleaned up. Try this on your own. Again, for some organizations, you're never running into those limits, but for others, you're regularly getting messages saying that you need to delete old information or archive. Using the Cleanup Folder feature is a quick way to clean up without having to bother archiving. In Outlook 2016, you can add additional Outlook profiles, such as other mailboxes, group mailboxes, and information that you might need to connect to. The easiest way to do this is to search through the Windows Start menu for Mail. I'm going to go ahead and type in Mail, and under my control panel, I get a Mail option. Here, I can use the Mail Setup dialog box to add additional email accounts. I'm going to select Email Accounts, and if I get a warning, I'm going to go ahead and say Yes. Once here, I can select New, and I can type in the information I'd like to add, such as the name and the email address itself. Once I put in the password and confirm the password, I can select Next. This will locate and configure that mailbox. Once finished, I will need to restart Outlook for these changes to take effect. I can close these dialog boxes, close out of Outlook, and then reopen up Outlook. Once Outlook reopens, I now have that additional profile added to my navigation pane. When I reopen Outlook, now on the navigation pane, I have that email account that I've added, and now I can access the inbox and any additional information within that Outlook account. This is useful, again, when managing multiple accounts or group mailboxes. Try this on your own. Go to the File tab or to the Mail options and add through the account settings an additional mailbox. Again, another way is to just simply search for Mail and open up Mail through the control panel. To remove an inbox, simply select it from the Email Accounts dialog box found in the File tab of the ribbon and choose Remove. This will remove that inbox from the navigation pane once you no longer need access to it. If for some reason you need to work offline, it's very simple to set those options within Outlook 2016. This will make all of the current content available to you whether or not you're connected to the server, and it will not send or receive new emails until you reconnect. From the Send Receive tab at the top, we have a Work Offline button. If I select Work Offline, it'll actually give me a status along my status bar saying that I'm working offline. Again, making any new available emails unavailable until I reconnect. To reconnect, simply select the Work Offline button again, and now it will reconnect to the Exchange server. It's a very simple feature that you won't always need, but it can be very helpful if you know that you're going to be disconnected from the server and you want to make sure that when you reconnect, all emails created and sitting in your outbox are immediately sent out. One of the best features of Outlook is the fact that you can customize things, specifically views, to give you insight or visible information that matters to you most. From the View tab of the ribbon, I have my view settings. Here I can open up all the advanced view settings, specifically the columns I work with, how I group information, sort or filter. Then I've got other additional settings such as changing the fonts or other table view information. I'm going to start with other settings, and here I can go in and change the default size of column headers. If it's too small, I can delete the current size and increase it to something larger simply by clicking on Column Font. I'm going to change it to 10, and I'm going to change the row font to 10 as well. Once I say OK and go back to the main Advanced View Settings options, I can say OK again. Now all of my row information and column information is larger, making it a little easier for me to read. Now, if I decide that the view settings that I've customized are not exactly what I'm looking for, at any time I can reset these. From the View tab of the ribbon, I have the Reset View option. Here I can say yes, and now it resets to that standard default font size of 8. I can also go in and create custom views for things like conditional formatting. If I receive emails from specific people or with specific criteria, I can have them formatted in a different way. By default, we have things like overdue emails. Emails that have been flagged and that due date has come and gone will show up in red font. I can change this or turn it off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new conditional format. I'm going to select Add. I'm going to name the format the name of my coworker. Once I've named the rule, I need to change how I want that font displayed. I can make it larger, I can change the font type, or I can change the color. I'm going to choose green and say OK. Now, once I've set the font, I still need to tell it what the criteria or condition is. So I'm going to say any email I receive from my colleague or sent to my colleague, I would like it to show up in that green font. When I say OK and OK again, any email message received from that student is going to show up in that green font. And here you can see those messages show up in that bright green font. This is a great way to make sure that you get extra notification if emails are received from important clients or your boss. And it's simple as creating a conditional format. You can create multiple conditional formats for many different people or with any other specific criteria. Specifically subject lines, certain words, and you have additional options under the More Choices, certain importance, or certain items are used. Again, once you've made any changes and you want to reset, you can always choose Reset Current View. These are some very popular view setting options, but there are many more. Explore these advanced view setting dialog box options to see how you can customize Outlook 2016 so that it works best for you. To create custom forms in Outlook 2016, the first thing you're going to need to do is turn on your Developer tab. By default, this tab is turned off. To turn it on, go to the File tab of the ribbon, and from the options, under Customize Ribbon, you can put a check mark next to Developer. We're going to go ahead and say OK, and now you'll have that Developer tab across the top. Once the Developer tab is turned on, we can choose to design a form. You can take a standard already existing form and open that up. It opens it up in this edit mode, and if I wanted to customize it, say add a field like department, I can simply find it through my field chooser that can be turned on or off from the ribbon, and then click and drag that field to my form. Once I've added or customized my form, I can go ahead and publish it, publishing the form as something different or the file that I created. I'm going to call this Untitled Contacts, publish the form. Once it's published, I can close out of it. And then to go back and choose an existing form, I can simply go to my drop-down from the Developer tab in Choose a Form dialog box. And under the Contacts, I have that Untitled Contacts where I can open it up and add the contact with that custom field department. You can spend a lot of time customizing fields within Outlook, For the most part, all of the fields that you need will be in here. If you don't see something, there's additional details and all fields from the contact card. If I open up all fields, I can add additional information without having to customize anything. But by general, the general section, most of the information you need will be available here. Try this on your own. Activate the Developer tab and go in and customize or look at the different forms you have available to customize within Outlook 2016. You can export contacts from Outlook to Windows using the Outlook Import-Export wizard. From the File tab of the ribbon, I'm going to go to the Open and Export option along the left-hand side. From here, I will choose Import-Export. I'm going to choose to export to a file, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom and select Next. I'm going to select comma-separated values. Choosing Next, I'm going to decide what folder or what section of my contacts I want to export. Once I select Contacts, I'll choose Next, and then I can browse to my desktop or my server, and I can name this file. Once I say OK, it creates that file path to that location. I choose Next, and now I can export using the finish. Once that's completed, I now have an Excel file with all of my Outlook contacts, and here I can see all of the people that were in my inbox as contacts now in a very convenient Excel spreadsheet. Try this on your own. Export your contacts to a folder on your desktop or on a shared drive so that you can then pull them into Excel. If I want to email all of my contacts inside of Outlook at the same time with the same message, I can use a mail merge. From the People section of Outlook, I have my mail merge button, but I personally find it easier to begin in Microsoft Word. It's going to have you go to Microsoft Word anyway, and this just makes it a lot clearer. From Microsoft Word, I'm going to go to the Mailings tab of the ribbon. And the easiest way to do a mail merge within Word or Outlook is to use the step-by-step mail merge wizard. This is the traditional mail merge toolbar that we've had for many versions of Outlook and Word, and it makes it very simple to know what information you need to add. I'm going to select from the Start Mail Merge button the step-by-step wizard. Here I'll choose Email Message. I'll then go to my Next at the bottom, where I can choose to start from the current document or use an existing template if I've already created the letter. Then I choose who I'm going to send these messages to. I'm going to select Outlook Contacts. Now I can choose which folder I want to pull my contacts from, and since I only have one, I'm going to go ahead and select that. If for some reason there was someone on this list that I didn't want to email, I could make adjustments to that from this view right here by deselecting a checkbox. Once I say OK, my contact list has been imported into the wizard. Next, I write my message, something like, "Thank you for attending the event. Please contact me with questions." Now, if I want to customize this, which is a very nice feature, from the section that I want to have a custom name or department or any other information available through your contact cards, I can choose More Items. Here I can select what field I want to use, and I'm going to use the first name field and have it inserted. Once I've inserted that first name field, I'm going to put my comma in here, and then I can go to the next step to review my messages. I can click through and see how each one of my emails will appear, and I can edit the recipient list if necessary. My final step through my mail merge wizard is to complete the mail merge. I'm going to select Electronic Mail, and here I can put in my subject line, and I can choose the mail format. Once I hit OK, it will email all of these recipients. So make sure that you've tested it and that it looks good. Sometimes I'll create a mail merge and just send it to myself through a personal email to verify that all the formatting looks good. But once you're ready to hit OK, you say OK, and that quickly I was able to send 50 custom emails to people within my contact list in Outlook. Try this on your own. Once done, you can go back to Outlook and check through your sent mail and see all of those sent items that you just sent out. Throughout our modules, we've covered a few importing and exporting data options, but I just wanted to go over a few more. To import or export data from Outlook or to Outlook, we're always going to go to the File tab, to the Open and Export section. Here we can open up calendars, open up Outlook data files or PST files, or another user's folder. But from the Import-Export section, this is where we can import or export a number of different file types. We have two options for exporting RSS feeds to an OPML file, or just to a general file type. If I choose export to a file, I'm given two options, a CSV file, or comma-separated values file, or a PST. To import files, we can import VCF contact card files, or VCS contact card files. We could import files from another program, such as a CSV file or a PST file. We could import from that OPML file type or from the RSS feed or comma feed list. The wizard makes it really easy to bring data into Outlook or to send data from Outlook to another file. Oftentimes, this is done when we want to work offline or we want to access information at a later date when we're not connected to the server. It is a good idea to be sure that when you're exporting or importing, that you verify that you're doing it in the right direction. Exporting, sending information from Outlook to another file, importing, bringing information into Outlook from another file. Take a look at these different options. There's a lot of great ways to bring information into Outlook other than manually going in and recreating all your contacts or not having access to information like emails or calendar information that you might need. Take a look at the different import and export options within the File tab of the ribbon under the Open and Export section. Throughout the Outlook modules, we've discussed many different ways to customize, such as setting your view options, turning things like the to-do bar on or off, and more. One other place to go to customize any of your personal preferences within Outlook is the Options from the File tab of the ribbon. We can add things like a different theme. I can change my office theme from colorful to dark gray and get a change of the view of the entire application. I can also make it white. An additional option from the Outlook options is to add a background. From the background section, I can add things like calligraphy, clouds, geometry, stars. I'm going to select stars, and when I say OK, now in the top right corner, I have that design element. In addition to things like adding a background or a theme, we have a lot of other options. Some options that I like under Mail are turning on your spell check. That way, emails, including the subject line, are spell checked before sent. I can add additional information, and I always encourage people to look through all of the options because we don't have time to go through each one in these videos. Under the calendar section, if you want to add an additional time zone, if you work with offices in the East Coast, you can add a secondary time zone. And I can say OK. And now when in my calendar portion, when I'm on a day, I have two columns. One column with the blue line showing me my current time, and another showing me what time it is in Buenos Aires. The File menu options gives you insight into all of the different customizable pieces of Outlook. If you don't want the color to highlight as yellow, you can change that. By default, you can have it look in all mailboxes instead of just the current folder. And then we even have advanced options, like where we're exporting and setting up RSS feeds. Outlook is an amazingly powerful program that's flexible enough to work within any industry and any job role. Explore the Outlook options to learn how to customize the personal preferences so that they work best for you. Remember, once you've changed something, go ahead and select OK to save all those changes.